Welcome to the Cherry Picker After Dark, the Patreon exclusive affiliate to the Cherry Picker podcast, where we like to kill people, but not really. I'm your host, Zach Cherry, and with me as always is...
I don't have a line. Hi, it's Eddie of Edward is True.
And this month's Cherry Picker After Dark is Scream Survivor 3, the much anticipated third season of Scream Survivor, which we're really excited about. This one. This is probably our favorite cast yet, because you know how we did this for the first two episodes is that we kind of drew names from a lot of, I think it was like 54 characters altogether, so there was no guarantee that you know who specifically would play. Like we had it kind of split by gender and also with like the killers proportioned throughout, just to make sure that you know we had them all playing in each season. And this time it seemed like what happened is that all the really great characters weren't getting picked, even though some were. But this is like the season where just like so many of them have been thrown into the mix, so this is really exciting. I've been a huge fan of Survivor since season 2, and I got Eddie on board with it. Kind of, did I?
I saw one season. I'll watch another one at some point, but there's so much TV. But I enjoyed the one I saw.
And you actually watched one of the more recent seasons, because the show has changed drastically. They've kind of shortened, I guess, the run of days in which the castaways are on the island, because it used to be 39 and now I think it's 26 or something. So they like expedite it, but they limit their rations, and then like there's obviously more content shown. So this, you know, for all intents and purposes, is going by the old template of like the 39 days, I guess, and just sort of like lots of challenges and stuff. And I actually do want to shout out Kellen Whaley for helping us kind of compile the list of challenges, because that is something that I would have never been able to do myself. So he went ahead and just had the entire kind of template made up of all the challenges that
fully
are going
detailed,
to be.
yeah.
Yes. Because they do correlate to actual challenges that have been played. But what we're going to do, because we know who's playing, but we need to figure out which tribes they're going to be on. And we're going to draw names at random to do that, still giving it the gender balance and killer balance. But before we kind of go into it, we'll go through the characters, because this time we wanted to be a little more precise with things, because before it took us a really long time to get through a lot of the, I guess, the tribals, because we're just trying to think of like, where would people vote? Who, you know, where would alliances draw? Who's has strengths in one area? So we've actually given scores to each one of the players based on social skills, physical skills, and strategic skills. So anyway, this, if you are watching this on YouTube, just know that this is just the preview. So you're going to see where the tribes are divided, who's kind of aligned at the beginning, and we'll get to our reward, first immunity challenge, and then the first vote off. And then if you want to continue watching, please subscribe to my Patreon. You'll be able to watch the rest there, as well as the first and second seasons and all the other Cherry Picker After Darks. And I really appreciate it, because it helps with the podcast and my main channel and all that. So please consider subscribing for more entertainment and more Scream stuff. Let's kind of go through each character here. At the weakest, we've got Principal Arthur Hembry, who has a social score of 7, physical 3, and strategic 3. Next, after that, we have Rebecca Walters, Sydney's publicist, who's got a score of 13 as well. She has a social 7, a physical 4, and a strategic 2. Up from that, we have Jason Carvey, who is the only character left from the new Scream movies, because we basically had all like the Scream 5s in the first season, all the Scream 6s in season 2. So it's literally just him by himself against all the like original trilogy and Scream 4 characters that are left, which is not good for him. But we'll see. But he's got 16 points. He's a social 4, a physical 6, and a strategic 6. And Eddie and I went over these right beforehand, so we kind of decided, I guess, to the best of where we believe people would land fairly. So it's set in stone. It's canon to the Cherry Picker After Dark. Up from that, we have Phil Stevens from Scream 2, the opening scene. He's got 18 points. He's a social 7, a physical 8, and a strategic 3. Up from that is Sarah Darling, who also has 18 points. She's a social 6, physical 7, strategic 5. Up from that is Olivia Morris, who is social 6, physical 6, but strategic 7. Then up from that, we have Cece Cooper's also 19 points, social 9, physical 6, strategic 4. Then we have Mark Kincaid, Detective Kincaid, 22 points. He's got a social 7, a physical 8, and a strategic 7. Derek Feldman, 22 points as well. He's social 9, physical 9, strategic 4. Cotton Weary, 23 points. Social 5, physical 10, strategic 8. Tatum Riley, also 23 points. She's a social 9, physical 8, strategic 6. We've got Kirby Reed, social 10, physical 8, strategic 6. Do you want to talk about that for a second? It seemed like you wanted to say something about it before.
Just basically, it was the strategy. Was that what I took?
Strategy 6. Yeah.
Yeah, strategy 6, and I was just kind of like, that seems like a low score for somebody who survived 2 movies. But you posed your argument, which I won't make for you.
Okay, no, that's fine. I appreciate that. Essentially, I said her survival did not come from strategy. It was more so her will to live, which she explains as much in Scream 6. But she's never really been a strategic character. Like, she's not really thinking too much about her survival in a sense of just like in 4 of just like she's more so just kind of like enamored with everything, which is kind of like night and day with like a character like Sydney in the first Scream, where, you know, there are trepidations and stuff. Like it's not really until like the end there where she's like, you know, on the phone with Charlie tied up, where she's kind of taking things seriously. But even then, she's not thinking too smart, because she just like, the killer hangs up. She doesn't even know if she's won. She just sort of says, I knew I was right. She wanted to be right, and then like went out, and that's what kind of got her stabbed. And then as an FBI agent, let's be honest, she needs a lot of work. She's got to work on that.
I mean, because strategy, I think where you're correct is that strategy is different than, I guess, just a raw will to live, and like
that's more physical.
And an urgent, like she had such an urgency to her and everything like that. And I guess that could get in the way of a strategy. And also, in the greater scheme of things, strategy in the face of what Survivor would demand of somebody. I don't know how ahead of the game she would be compared to some of these other bitches.
So that's Kirby Reed, 24 points. Up from that is Nancy Loomis, who also has 24 points. She's social 7, physical 8, strategic 9.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, like, I think like an 8 physical is like, it's respectable, because she does kind of go toe to toe with Sydney at the end there. She's almost overpowering her with the knife, and, you know, she got Randy. Yeah. But yeah, up from that is Roman Bridger, 25 points, social 6, physical 10, strategic 9. Up from that, we have Stu Mocker, who's also got 25 points. He's a social 8, a physical 9, and a strategic 8. Mickey Altieri, I've got 27 points, social 8, physical 9, strategic 10.
I don't know, it's interesting to me. Like
Okay, let's go back to Mickey. So
that his strategy is like higher than Nancy's, but
is Nancy, aka Mrs. Loomis, aka Debbie Salt, is she strategic, or is she just kind of playing emotionally as a killer?
What's the difference? Well, I mean, in terms of like baiting him, like, you know, having him be a puppet in like her little murder theater.
I just don't think that like she was being very strategic. Like, between the two of them, the way that he did everything was very strategic. The way that he got in Sydney's head there at the end and like manipulated her, that was super strategic. Whereas with Mrs. Loomis, she kind of comes out there, and she probably could have used him. He wasn't going to turn on her. He was like all ready to get to the trial. Sure. That, you know, she could have kept him alive and made sure that Sydney and Gail were dead. before then taking him out. So I just think that I look at her as not being so much strategic, but just like being more so emotional and impulsive and playing quickly. Whereas like Mickey, like I know that what you're saying is that like, well, if she was able to get one up on him and he's super strategic, then that should lower his strategy score. But I mean, like we see that in Survivor all the times where like characters who are really strategic are targeted, and it might be because of like other factors that they have that that player that has above them that they don't see it.
The only thing that gave me pause is because when a getter gets got, that's a huge it doesn't bespeak 10 to me, because you should have allowed for even your partner to turn on you if you're that strategic. But also the fact that she kills off Mickey is a huge bonus for me, just because I don't really care for him the same way you do. So when she shoots him, I'm just kind of like, thank you.
I love both of them.
I know.
So anyway, that's where it is. Gail Weathers.
Yeah.
She's 27 points. She's got a social 10. She's got a physical 8 and a strategic 9. Mm-hmm. Did you want to tell me or tell everyone what you told me about her as a 10?
Well, the social 10, it gave me pause again. I kind of found myself looking up, wondering social 10, because she does seem to be pretty. I don't even remember what the word but you can put any adjective that, like unscrupulous, rude, blunt, manipulative. There's a huge one, like an opportunist, and unashamedly so. Like, but the thing is, she always manages to win people over. So I took my pause away, because I thought she is a 10, because she can fuck up in real time right in front of you, make you want to punch her, make you actually punch her, and then you're like fighting alongside her if she's still standing long enough by the end of the movie.
Absolutely.
Or she's taking a bullet and you're both doing a high five at the end of the movie, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so yeah.
Okay. So that's settled. So and then finally Sydney Prescott, also 27 points. She's got a social 8, a physical 9, and a strategic 10. I mean, I think that 8 is a really good score anyway, but just in terms of like for a social, because Sydney's never been like a social person across any of her movies. I think that she's probably grown more so into it over the years, but even then it's like it's not one of her gifts, you know? It's not like she'll talk to people if she has to, but she's not a sociable person.
She's always been a good listener, except for when in the first movie, when, you know, like she's convinced that her mother, you know, that the story of her mother's death is like one way and people are trying to kind of like chime in, and she's like, no, that's her energy as I identify it. But yeah, socially, there's always been something kind of, a little reclusive, not in a way that puts people off, but in a way that I think she knows the introvert, and I think she knows the extrovert. She's lived both sides of the street, as it were.
Yeah.
But and she can walk the line, and that's why I think she should be as high as she is at an 8. I think that's very, very fair. Yeah. But I think if she's going to be withdrawn and need to kind of get her shit together, or get her head together, or even talk to someone, she's going to isolate. And I think one-on-one, she's really, really good. But you put her in a group setting, I feel like, again, she'd probably be listening a lot, which is good. But
it depends. We'll see like who she lands with on a tribe. You know, because if she ends up with Tatum on a tribe, Tatum is going to be like the social one out of the two of them. She's going to be the talker. Sydney's going to be more withdrawn and like sit back and listen.
It'll also have to be a question of, will Sid resort back to first movie Sid, or will she be because that's going to be an interesting conversation.
But, I mean, the way we've kind of figured this in the past is that like all the characters they kind of embody all of their appearances. And all of their growth over the movies if they have made multiple appearances. And obviously, you know, they've all been resurrected and brought back to life for Scream Survivor. And they can choose to play with people who've betrayed them, like such as the killers, or they can, you know, continue to hold grudges. And that goes both ways with the killers and everyone else. So it really depends on like, who are they? What is like their temperament? What is their ultimate goal? Can they let go of certain things and play the game as it is? And I'm not sure that every single one of these characters will be able to do that because it hasn't been that way in the past. So anyway, with that said, let's split up the tribes. So we'll start by picking the killers because they are sort of the team captains. So we'll have 2 per tribe. Jason is, like a hybrid killer, but he's amidst the other characters. So technically 1 tribe will have 3 killers. All right, so I've got them here. The first one is Stuart Mocker.
Dude.
So Stuart Mocker is going to be on the Rialto Theater tribe. was the name that I...
Venues.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And then the other killer to join him is Nancy Loomis.
Ooh.
So she's going to be on the Rialto Theater tribe with Stu. With her son's best friend. Could you imagine if like her and Mickey were together? I don't know if that would work. I could see like him wanting to work with her, but it's just like, but he would know. It's like, I can't trust this bitch.
I love it. It's like a meta, kind of like within the world, within the universe of the Scream franchise, but also kind of outside of it, where the movies have all happened, but they're all still alive. So it's like, fuck, you killed me.
Yeah,
I love that.
I mean, well, she put a few bullets in him, but technically Sydney and Gale did. But
there you go.
Anyway, by default, that means that Roman Bridger and Mickey Altieri are the the captains of the Stabathon tribe.
Aww,
yeah,
that's perfect for them.
Yeah. So now we're gonna kind of go back and forth. You're gonna choose a female character, and this one is gonna go on the Rialto tribe.
First lady person. I did the post-its, and I did them on the part that has the sticky on it. Cece Cooper.
Okay.
Coops.
Cece Coops is going on the Rialto tribe. I have them folded up in my hands, so picking a dude. And we've got Phil Stevens on the Rialto.
No.
So he's on the tribe of his place of death.
I hope he's got a good sense of humor about it.
He probably does. I think so.
And okay, I picked another one. Oh, these are stuck together. See, now Jesus. I'm the one who's like pulling apart the thing. Olivia Morris.
Okay.
Is the next.
Olivia going on the Rialto. And now picking another dude. Detective Mark Kincaid.
Ooh. Let's see who. I wanted to make it honest, but we're running into a similar problem as we did last time when you put.
I crumpled them up.
Yeah. Rebecca Walters.
Okay, Rebecca.
Oh no.
Where is she? Principal Arthur Hembury. Fun. One more for this tribe.
Okay, come on. I wanted a legacy character, and I got Gale Weathers.
Oh, wow. Okay. That means, Sydney and Gale are not playing on the same tribe to start.
Good.
So, I mean, we don't really have to draw the others because we know who's going on the other team. So it's going to be Jason is on the tribe of the Stabathon.
I've got Sarah Darling.
I've got Derek Feldman.
Tatum Riley.
And Cotton Weary.
Kirby Reed.
Which means that Sydney is the last one picked.
Wow. Oh my God.
It's her franchise, and she was the last one picked.
We saved the best for last.
All right. Wow. Okay. Calculated all of that up just to get like a total score for each tribe. So the Rialto Theater tribe has 68 for social. Stabathon has 65. So they're pretty close, just like evenly matched in terms of like social. Physical strength, Rialto Theater has 60. Whereas Stabathon has 76. So there's a huge difference with a much stronger Stabathon tribe physically. And then for strategy, we've got 52 points for Rialto versus 64 for Stabathon. So it looks like right now we've got a much stronger tribe for the Stabathons. Okay. Here's the thing. They're all brought to the beach. There is no Jeff Probst because this is Scream Survivor. Instead, it's Wes Craven, who has graciously, returned
From the afterlife.
from the afterlife to host Scream Survivor 3 once again. And, he's there on the beach to get them all riled up. And we're going to play our first reward challenge, which is Battle Dig. We did this, I believe, the last 2 seasons, but we're doing it again. So members for each tribe will race out to a marked location and dig up a bag. The castaways then compete to return the bag to their tribe's mat. The first person to touch the tribe mat with a hand on the bag scores a point for their team. The first tribe to win a given number of rounds wins the challenge. The reward is a fire-making kit, and this is a physical challenge. So I think it's pretty safe,
pretty clear
to show who's winning the reward challenge here. So Stabathon, wow. See how much faster that was? Remember, like, before we'd had to be like, okay, well.
This is going to be like 2 hours tops.
You say that now, but every member on the Stabathon tribe has a reward point for them. And now this is the fun part because they've all gone off to their separate beaches and, they have to make their shelters. This is where alliances are formed. So usually they go right to the winning tribe because morale's high. So let's start with the Stabathon tribe. Let's see who's in an alliance with who. I think, we already mentioned it before. Tatum and Sydney is a solid crew, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think that Kirby would probably want to be in on that too. And, she knows Sydney. I think that they bonded for their short time in Scriforum.
Yeah, totally.
So I see that as well. Who I don't see working with Sydney, or, people that I see Sydney not wanting to work with, are probably the Killers. I can't see her wanting to work with. I mean, I think, here's the thing with Sydney. I think that she's practical. I don't think that she would play that emotionally, but I mean, I think that there might be some difficulty with Roman based on the fact that, their history and everything, and him kind of like orchestrating her mother's murder. And then with Mickey, I mean, I can see her possibly working better with Mickey, but the fact is, like, he manipulated her in a way. So it's just like there's that to think about as well. Would she want to work with someone who, sent her into hiding, more or less? So there's going to be lines drawn there. However, with Roman, is he going to want to work with other killers? That's the question.
Yes, I think absolutely.
At least to start.
Yeah, obviously. Totally.
Yeah.
Because
he's going to
locate the unscrupulous people. So also he's probably going to fancy himself like the puppet master of that because as far as he's concerned, everything that Billy and Stu did is just an extension of him. I also feel like Jason would want to be in on that.
Of course. They're going to fucking play him like a harp from hell. He's putty in their hands.
Puppy putty. Little puppy energy putty in their hands.
He's going to look at them and just be like, oh my God, he's going to idolize them.
I honestly think that just based off of like what you were saying about Sydney, I can see her if it comes down to it and she had to work with Mickey, I could see her looking past what happened between them for the good of the challenge or whatever, but I feel like there would be this thing in her back pocket, like, I will exploit him as long as I can. But the second I have the power to get him out of just my life, I will execute him.
Because the thing is, they're both strategic 10s. I think that they might be like the only players who have that high of strategy. So there could even be a thing of just like, we're dangerous in our own separate ways. So there might be like kind of just that camaraderie of just being like, each one of us is like the other's shield in a way. So that's why I wouldn't like immediately discount any sort of like teamwork. But I think like immediately if we're looking at day one on the beach, Obviously the killer bros are gonna be like, yeah, we're a team, and like Jason, yeah, sure, get over here. We're gonna get rid of him as soon as we can. But I can definitely see that Derek is obviously gonna, like, especially since Kincaid is not on this tribe, Derek's going to gravitate towards Sydney, and that's going to be an alliance there.
Yeah, she's gonna feel bad about him getting shot and everything because she wouldn't untie him, and I think he'll be in good spirits about it. He's a pretty decent guy.
There'll be like a scene on the beach of just like Mickey and Derek and just being like, come on, can we work together? Like, can we get past this?
The two who I don't have a strong read on in terms of like what direction they would go in are Sarah Darling and Cotton Weary. Yeah. What do you think they're gonna make of
the thing? Okay, because Cotton is like, he'll go to like the killers and he'll just be like, yeah, like bros, alliance, whatever. But then he'll go to Sydney and it'll be like, what he said to her at the end of Scream 2. It's just like, that I would never do that, or sort of. So he would be playing both sides, and he's a strategic player himself. He's got an 8 for strategy. Sarah, I can just see this as like, it's like a vacation for her, like she's just on the beach. Like what's the one on Gilligan's Island who's just like the actress who
Ginger?
Sure.
She'll just be like looking at her reflection in the water,
adjusting her boob.
Wondering how did her agent get her on this keg?
That makes sense. These alliance lines are drawn. We got the 3 on one side, we got the 4 on the other, and then the kind of 2 unsure of. They're kind of playing both sides, or just not playing any side. And I think that everything is for the most part pretty civil, other than maybe Sydney and Roman. People are probably just like trying to keep them separate. But I can't see anyone else here really having like a strong beef against another.
Not at this juncture, no.
Yeah. And like Tatum and Sydney, I don't feel like there's anyone who would be threatened by Tatum, or like just in terms of like being Sydney's number 1 ally sort of thing. Because Kirby, probably wouldn't be vying for that spot. And I also think that for Sydney, I think that she has the wherewithal to know that even though like she's got Derek on her side, she's probably doing like the distance thing in Scream 2, where just like, I don't want people to think we're like a couple or a showman sort of thing, because that's going to put a target on our backs.
And Mark's on the other team, so if that is indeed the Mark.
They've confirmed it is, but whatever. I'm fine with it. Oh,
have they? Okay, if they've confirmed it, you would know better than I have.
But you know what? They've confirmed other things that are bullshit. So
it'll be negated in the next movie.
Yeah, I think it'll be funny though if all these people make the merge and there's just sort of this triangle. Because she's not. Yeah. That's the thing. Like Sydney would not swing either way to one or the other. She'd just be like, I'm playing my own game here. So now to the Rialto Theater Beach. I think that it's amazing that we have Gail and Mrs. Loomis playing on the same tribe.
I wouldn't be surprised if she was also playing a kind of close game, but I also could totally see her just ingratiating herself to anyone who would listen, just to get a sense of like what is the energy coming back at me. I think she'd want to read the room as thoroughly as possible so she can kind of figure it out what side everybody's bread is buttered on. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Here's 2 people at least that I know might gravitate towards her just because they did in their movies. And that is Detective Kincaid in Scream 3, because he, obviously seeked, is that even a word? Seeked sought. He sought her assistance in the mystery murder investigation. So I can see them being, and she was receptive of it. She was like, she was excited about working with the police. So I think that anyone of like stature like that will give her the time of the day. But the other one who I don't know if she would give the time of the day is Rebecca, who clearly like glommed onto her and was just like, you were my 90s. Would Gail be opportunistic in that way and just be like, okay, you're a number? Or would she just be like, get lost, scram?
I don't think she'd want to burn bridges this soon in the game. She's too smart for that.
Yeah.
I think she'd kind of pat her on the head and smile.
and then go have a confessional and just be like, oh,
rolling her eyes.
that loser.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
She wants to be me. Well, guess what? She isn't now, and she never will be.
Yeah.
But I don't have to tell her that.
Himbry, the only person who really knows him is Stu. And
Right.
debatable of, whether he killed him or not, because, there's...
Yeah.
We've had that argument. But this is what I see for a character like Himbry, is that he has a social 7. He is the school principal. He can put on this, face and charm people to an extent. So I can see him as being a character that, as long as they're not, physically weak and losing challenges, might last a little bit longer. But at the same time, I don't know if he would have an alliance with Stu. He might just be like, oh, that kid's trouble.
I can see him on the first day just kind of doing that principal thing and just kind of like, okay, everybody, so, trying to wrangle
Your principal
things.
loves you. He loves his tribe very much.
Exactly.
Has
everybody got what they need? Does anybody need any help or anything like that? Just trying maybe a little too hard, to ingratiate himself to as many people as possible for the sake of the game, and for the sake of the team. I feel like he'd be the go team, kind of player. Yeah. But I know that once the chips are down and there's a little bit more stress, he would break. And I just always got the sense that in this game, he would be the kind of person who would, I don't know if he'd necessarily align himself with the killers, with the ghost faces, but I have a feeling he might want to stop them in a hideous way and then explain to the people he perceives as his tribe, his true tribesmen, they were trash and that's why I had to do it for us.
Yeah.
For the good of, we're good people. We don't do bad things. Anyway, I'm probably getting ahead of myself, but that's how I see him playing out in this game.
So this is a really weird tribe, because it's just so many people who have absolutely no affiliation. I could see, Cece and maybe Olivia.
Yeah.
Olivia teaming up or just, being friends. Phil, I can see Phil and Himbry being friends.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I can see them just hooking up as an alliance. And for the killers, see, that's the thing. Gale, I think she would have no issue with working with Stu. I think that because she would be able to be smart about it, the same way that Sydney would, of just being okay, yeah, I need to use you. The issue would be Mrs. Loomis, because Mrs. Loomis is, she holds a grudge, and it's gonna be I think that Gale would probably be open to working with Mrs. Loomis, but I don't think that Mrs. Loomis would be open to working with Gale. But I do think that Stu and Mrs. Loomis would be yeah, we're an alliance. But I think that if it came down to it and Mrs. Loomis was too much of a liability for Stu's game, if he had a better chance of just working with Gale, I think that he would cut ties with Mrs. Loomis.
And I think Gale would know that too. I think she would absolutely know that and probably delight in tantalizing Stu, as it were, while Nancy is in earshot or in plain view of her, so she can see I can play this puppet just as well as you can, Nancy. Whenever I want to snap my fingers and make him part of my crew. I think she'd like him. Kind of she'd probably want him to be a cotton weary, wavering between both of them and just kind of trying to pit him against the other one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think they both really, really like to think that he's their winged monkey, Nancy and Gale.
And he'd love that. He would love that kind of energy of just being in the middle and just knowing that he has all of them. So I mean, in that way, I think that someone like Stu would probably be a stronger alliance for someone like Gale than Rebecca would be for Gale. Obviously, she would use Rebecca, but she knows that for long-term game, she'd have a better shot having Stu by her side as a meat shield, as it were.
Yes,
than
that's a good way to put it.
Than people like Rebecca. So I mean, I could see Stu aligning with Gale. So it's just the question then becomes what of everyone else sort of thing? Like, is Mrs. Loomis going to be able to like corral like these kids like Phil and like Cece and Principal Himbry, Olivia, like those characters? Like it just feels like there's not a strong, and we saw that last season. There was like one tribe that just didn't have like strong alliances within it.
I mean, also given the fact that Rialto Theater Tribe did not win this first thing, I feel like Nancy could maybe play on others' sympathy, like Himbry or Stu, like down the line, and maybe even arguably like Olivia and Cece. Like, even though she's a killer, I feel like if she got depressed enough and was like the outsider, that could actually be a real strength for her. If she started to feel like, I'm not really a member of any kind of alliance, I think she could, because she can play. That's what she did in Scream 2, was kind of like play this underdog character who was just getting shat on, and then in the last climax sequence, there she is with a gun and a makeover in a white suit, you know. So. But I think she'd be fine, kind of like only maybe speaking to Stu and just kind of like keeping her distance and just kind of watching the game as well, just kind of like seeing who's connected. Maybe she wouldn't dive in quite so quickly.
That's
maybe,
true.
Maybe death has been good for her social game.
Yeah, and she does have strategy to her. I'm just trying to find her. She's got 9 strategies, so I think, you know, she's not. She clearly knows, you know, that she's got to lay low, just like she did in her movie as the killer. So okay, that's interesting. So let's get to our first immunity challenge. So this is another one that we've done before. This is Quest for Fire. Tribes have a raft fitted with a fire cauldron and 2 torches. The tribes will use the torches to light a series of torches or walks, both on land and in the water. All members must have their hands on the raft at all times. The first tribe to reach the finish wins. And this is, again, a physical challenge, so it's pretty safe to say that Stabathon's got this. Yeah.
Okay.
Which means
and they're on a high from the last one too.
Yeah.
Just for morale, like they're probably in really, really good spirits. And
they're happy. Yeah. I think the only one that's kind of like being like pouty is probably Roman. That's just
and Sarah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because she's just like, what? Maybe they'll team up.
I'm pruning. I can see her just like complaining about her fingers pruning because she's in the water. Anyway.
Maybe they'll team up. Like she might be like, oh, I know you killed me, but you know, I don't know anyone here. She doesn't know anyone.
You know what? I could see her totally like looking past the fact that he killed her, just because she's not really connecting with anybody else in the group. That's funny. Okay, yeah, let's put that. Okay. Nice.
All right. Anyway, so Rialto Theater Tribe is going to Tribal Council. Wes Craven is there waiting for blood.
Yes.
So, okay, this is what it comes down to. Are they going to be like, hey, we've just lost 2 challenges. They're physical. Are we going to get rid of our weakest physical player, who is actually Rebecca? I mean, Rebecca and Himbry are both pretty low. Rebecca has 4 points. Himbry has 3.
Yeah.
So they're kind of the weakest links, just in terms of physicality. Or is it, you know, I think that you're right in saying that Mrs. Loomis is going to do a really good job of laying low, that they're not going to be like, well, she's gonna cause discord. So it might just come down to like a physical thing. So are we thinking it's going to be Rebecca or Himbry? I think that's where the tribe is going to fall.
Okay. Because this is the thing. You would know better than I do. First elimination. Because I feel like it could go either way, but it just depends on what the physical elimination typically, or the first elimination typically happens to be. Because Rebecca, I think, has more going for her as a competitor, just because I think she's more strategic than Himbry is. She has a higher score than he does, right? As for strategy?
No, she has lower strategy than he does.
Oh, okay.
But just by like 1, because he has 3 for strategy. She has 2.
She has 2. Okay.
But they both have 7 for social.
They both have 7 for social. Yeah. Okay, but given what we've already kind of established as far as like the fact that Gail could see her as someone to be exploited and a possible ally, at least for the time being, could be a boon to her. But the thing is, like, Himbry because he's so, okay, everybody, hey, everyone, could we just, bring it down. He's annoying. I could see people being annoyed by him and wanting to get him off the team for that reason, but also because he's not a threat would they want to keep him around, because he wouldn't be, I mean, they haven't won anything yet, so they're probably going to want as strong a team as possible. I think on the face of it, Rebecca would appear to have more going for her than Himbry, but Himbry does have an alliance with Phil, but I don't see Phil having that much pull with people. I feel like Gale would be able to manipulate everybody out of that choice.
I think that this is where like an alliance would be formed after this decision, because if she gets rid of Rebecca, then, I think that she'll get Phil and Himbry, and it'll be like them and Stu and Kincaid, and that'll be like 5. And then there's what's left of just, or there's, Mrs. Loomis laying low sort of thing. Maybe she's just still pretending to work with Gale at this point, or just being like, oh, yeah, I'll do whatever you want. And then Cece and Olivia, who are kind of like, they're just there. I mean, I think Olivia, like, that's the thing. Her strategy is more so just like physical surviving, and it's just in her movie. Like, she might be more so a floater, just kind of like the path of the least resistance to her. So she could be a goat. In that sense, because she's just sort of not wanting to ruffle any feathers, but that would be her strategy. Whereas like if they get rid of Himbry, then that might be a cause for Phil like to just become detached from that and not want to work with Gale or them, and then kind of go off and be a potential player to pick up for Mrs. Loomis and the others down the line. So
even though she staged his death. I think like Gale would know that. She would know like there's no way he's going to Nancy, because she orchestrated his death. Like, she told someone to go kill him and they did. Like, so she was in the car with the motor running, waiting for, to pick up his killer, like after his murder was committed, and then after his girlfriend was killed as well in public. I feel like Gale might know that. So I don't know. I'm still leaning more toward Rebecca, but it's your call.
So just in terms of like Rebecca being voted off?
No, in terms of Rebecca being kept in Himbry. I'm sorry, I should clarify. Himbry being voted off and Rebecca.
I just think I think that Rebecca would probably be the one rubbing people the wrong way. Like, she might be one of the, like, she'd probably try to overplay at the beginning.
Oh,
whereas
hi!
I feel like, yeah, like she would be like Gale would see her as a threat. Like, she'd look at her and just be like, ugh, she thinks she can pull something on me, but she'd also look at her and just be like, I'm going to teach her a lesson. She thinks that she can come here and be that. Whereas like Himbry is just like, it's another weak character, but it's like, it's someone that she probably has more long-term control over. Whereas like Rebecca, I can see like she's going to want it. Like, the reason that she is so obsessed with Gale is because like she wants to be her. It's like single white female. She wants to take Gale down so she can become Gale, and Gale might want to like get rid of that early. So that's why I would probably say that Rebecca would be the first one out.
You can see Gale in her confessional saying, Eve Harrington is not going to win the Tony in this version.
And we've already got Mrs. Loomis. Who knows if she's kind of like also like came to the island as a reporter as well. I mean, we know that she didn't, but it's almost like there's all these similar types just hanging around there,
Right. Okay. So Rebecca gets voted off first then.